are literally shaping the planet.
Purpose is the only pathway to a regenerative future.
We have a choice to stay with the status quo or to change.
What is the point of trying to be just resilient when we can actually innovate?
All right, so Brian did a good job of introducing us. I don't know that we need to repeat. We can hop right into the agenda. So today, what we really want to discuss with you is some of the industry challenges that we know the construction industry is facing, how the connected job site emerged, and then we'll take you through some of the solutions and insights and what this means for the industry moving forward. So as you guys have seen throughout the last day and a half, the construction industry is continuing to grow and evolve. There are many new and exciting things on the horizon, but it definitely hasn't always been smooth sailing. Our industry has been plagued with economic challenges throughout the decades, and construction starts have grown and receded with the economic uncertainty. So today, we're really going to highlight 4 of the major challenges that we've seen. So the first, it shouldn't be a new one. The skilled labor shortage continues to remain the single biggest threat to the construction industry. So coming out of World War II, everybody was urged to go to college, and since then we've seen a gap in people entering into the skilled trades. So definitely top of mind when we're thinking of challenges that plague this industry. It truly is a struggle to hire enough good people at this point. The second is we know that the construction industry is really traditionally resistant to new technologies, and it hasn't changed a lot over the last couple hundred years. And this kind of leads to 2 and 3. So with projects becoming more complex, you have more and more regulations, and the processes for building construction haven't changed much. We haven't seen a lot of growth in productivity like we have in other industries. And the same is really true with that technology in terms of adoption to improve productivity or to improve other aspects. We've seen the construction industry just lag behind a lot of other industries in terms of that adoption. And it's kind of highlighted by the fact that 75% of companies in the construction industry spend less than 1% on IT. And the final one, which definitely rings true today and has before, is safety of workers and making sure that on the construction site we're keeping everyone safe, because still with all the advancements that have been made, 21% of workplace industries occur on the construction site. So then we have these 4 big challenges, and then 2020 comes and has even more challenges for us, right? So I don't know that anybody would have predicted or thought coming into this year that the global pandemic would be our number 1 concern and the number 1 challenge that has hit us. But there's lots of things that are really the new normal now. So whether you were in an office setting and you had to work on, hey, what are going to be our social distance requirements and how are we going to keep everybody 6 feet apart? Or when we're actually looking at job sites that were already plagued by that skilled labor shortage, and then we have higher and higher absentee rates, we have to make sure that we have the PPE on site to keep everyone safe. More and more people are working from home and we're having to bring them together. So definitely a lot of daunting challenges, not only from the ones coming into 2020, but the pandemic has added a whole new set. So if you look at all of these challenges, how are we going to get through this, and how is the construction industry going to survive? And it's right in front of us. We just need to take a more progressive approach. The industry is really primed for technology advancement. So if you go back a couple years, and the reason why we say it's primed for advancement is in 2018, there were over 130 deals that were made to invest in technologies in the construction industry, and that equaled over $3 billion. So this investment really created real solutions that were tangible to the market today, not only to help us with the headwinds of the past, but to really attack the challenges that the pandemic faced us with. So as the old proverb goes, necessity is really the mother of innovation, but it's really the 2 years prior in the innovation that was taking place and the investment into that innovation that really made it now the right time for those advancements to be rapidly adopted. And that's where we really get to the connected job site. So the connected job site is really an evolution of the internet and how we were able to improve the advancements in connectivity. So if you think about it, it wasn't too long ago that if you were at home, you had to make sure that everyone in the house didn't have to make a phone call so that you could dial up if you wanted to get on the internet. And in office setting, it was slightly better because you had your high-speed applications. But really, if you think about it, that wasn't too long ago. From there, we really made the advancement to, okay, now that we have high-speed internet, you can take it on the go and you can really have mobile internet and be able to operate your phone much the same as you were to a PC. But the two fundamental differences between these two things and what we're looking at today is that they both really required you to be an operator and to take an active investment into connecting and getting an update on things, uploading and downloading. Now, we've really been able to progress to the Internet of Things, where we can passively gather information because you're building your network based on everything that has embodied connectivity, those sensors and the software, and you're able to passively gather tons of information that you just wouldn't actively be able to upload, which has really changed the game in terms of technology and led us to where we are today and what we're using the Internet of Things to say, hey, now we have a connected job site. And I think the connected job site will continue to change, and the definition and what it means to us in the next 10 years might be different than what it is today. But today we would say the connected job site is really connecting all elements of the building environment with autonomy for real life communication, collaboration, management, ensuring a more lean, safe, efficient, productive execution of work. And Andy will take you through like some of the things that we're seeing, but I think that the image really tells the story of what's going on. So you have all of the information on the job site, you have site sensors that are being able to absorb it, everybody's actively working, and then you can feed all of that information to the foreman or the superintendent on site. You can feed it back to the procurement department and, hey, what needs to come next? All the way back to the top office, and if design changes need to be made or there's something that they need an update on the project. So really just combining all of these things and making projects run on budget and on time, which is always the ultimate goal. So what are some of the benefits? So like we said, hey, we really think that productivity improvement is going to be huge, because right now, I know I've been to tons of sites on research, and you'll see pallets of materials and they look like they've been sitting there through the rain and the snow, and hey, why have they been on site so early? Or the opposite, the team is ready to move on to the next phase of the project and they don't have the supplies, either the materials or the tools to move on to that phase. So we definitely think that there's going to be huge advancements in terms of productivity. The other main benefit we see is real life collaboration with all of the stakeholders. So there's lots of times today where a decision needs to be made quickly and you're gathering information from all of the different trades on site. And how do you make those decisions and those trade-off decisions between who's going where, or if something needs to be rerouted, or if design need to be changed, or new plans. So real life collaboration is going to be a big, and then clearly safety. So especially in today's environment, if you're able to wear a wrist sensor that tells you if you're too close to someone, or if you're climbing a ladder improperly, it gives you an indication or a reminder, or if you've been near dust extraction for too long, it can send you a reminder to stop that application. Sorry, excuse me. We definitely think that worker safety and productivity is a huge advancement that can come out of this. But more, there's just so much data that we're going to be able to collect. I think the true benefits of this are still yet to come, and what we can do once we have all this data collected and the advancements that can be made with construction management and creating best practices for that. So I'd like to transition it to Andy, and he'll take you through a closer look at some of the solutions that are on the market today.
Thanks, Paige. Yeah, just kind of going, after Paige and some of the things she said, there's some critical points in there. Like Milwaukee Tool, we spend a lot of time boots on the ground with our end users. And for me, from the one key standpoint, it's the ability to actually see technology evolving within the industry, being on job sites and actually seeing some of these things start to roll out. And if there's one good thing about a global pandemic that has changed the world we live in and created this new normal, is we're now seeing everyone pay more attention to technology and how that plays an active role in the built environment. So I'm happy to kind of dig in a little bit deeper. And what are some of the solutions that are out there today that are real? That we're not talking about the future anymore. We're talking about things that are out there in front of us and can be utilized in our day-to-day life out there in the built environment. So I'll go through kind of at a high level, talk about some of the solutions and some of the insights and benefits that we're seeing already from some of the solutions out there. First and foremost, which is closest to Paige and I here at Milwaukee Tool, is smart tools and inventory management. And the one thing that we've invested heavily in here at Milwaukee Tool is technology, and not just technology, but game-changing technology. So one key to us is our platform for smart tools, for tracking, and for the management of those tools in our software platform. So when we take these three core pillars of the one key system and actually see them in action, the tight integration between them are starting to pay dividends to the end users. Things like location tracking, that I can now see not just my inventory digitally within my application, but I can literally see where it is on a map. As I'm transferring from my tool crib to the job sites, I'm going to be seeing those location updates. I can further protect, and it goes into kind of the security perspective of the one key platform. I can put geofences around my crib. I can put geofences around my job site, so that not only do I know the location, but the tools and equipment themselves know their location. And if they were to be stolen, I'm going to get an alert, and I can actually lock that tool out. So the thief, it's useless to the thief. And we see every week tools come to our service centers that are broken. They're not broken. They were just locked out. They were stolen tools that get returned back to the rightful owner. But what's key with the Smart Tool platform is the fact that the end user, depending on the application that they're doing, they can actually get precise controls into those tools so that I'm reducing rework in what I'm performing. And just by utilizing the tool, not only do we give the end user capabilities with customization, but we're actually able to pull data off of those tools. We know when the tool is being used and how it's used. Thus, the tool crib and procurement will know how those tools are being used. And then just overall visibility to the inventory that's out there, so that when you're looking to tool up a job, you can go and see, this is where all my stuff is. This is what's being utilized, and I can be smarter about how I'm allocating the tools and equipment within my job site. So smart tools and inventory management, delivering a ton of insights, not only customization features that keep you safe and also more productive on the job site, but features that give the tool cribs more insights to how your overhead, your tools and equipment are actually being utilized out in the workforce. Kind of, going on top of that, I'm going to start here with more of the resource management within the industry. So we talked about tools and inventory. Next logical area is equipment control and monitoring. So all of our heavy machinery that's on job sites. Just like tools are getting smarter, so is equipment. We're starting to put, beacons and controls within the heavy machinery to make them more productive on the job site, less disruption, detect and reduce threats to the operator of that machinery, while also keeping everyone else on the job site safe. We're getting movement entries, which also drive cost controls. Some real life things is, I've been on job sites where you have cranes and you have a crane operator. A crane lift is an extremely expensive thing, to that job. And as soon as you get to a point where you start and you cannot stop, and a big piece of cost on a job that's unexpected is overtime hours from heavy machinery operators starting to do a lift. So I've already seen use cases where a lift was just getting started and the foreman said, whoa, time out. We're not going to have enough time within regular hour day to actually perform this lift. I'm going to go and shut that down before we get too far, saving those overhead costs to the job site. Also, the logging and the automation itself just is making us more precise and have more control over the heavy machinery that we're operating. Then there's material tracking, another vital resource in job site execution. And the biggest thing with material tracking is used to go on job sites and you'd see laydown yards. Laydown yards are extremely expensive and messy, making a job site less safe. And you've now procured this material that's now sitting there waiting weeks, sometimes months before it gets installed. And then you're at risk of that material not being good enough to actually install. So it gets into this whole work packaging within the construction industry, the lean methodology, the pull planning. How can we be smarter within the next 2 weeks and execute work and make sure everything is there for us, all of our resources? Material is a big aspect to that. And having visibility into the supply chain of the material that we're utilizing to execute the tasks that we need to perform is vital. So being able to trace where the material is, being able to better plan for it. So if I know that I have a look ahead of 2 weeks before I need this material, I can start planning for that and start getting visibility into the supply chain before it actually ends up on my job site. Just-in-time delivery is critical for a more lean and efficient job site. Having that material readiness and analytics right there at your fingertips, that is 24/7 updated. So material tracking is another resource, but let's get to the last one, labor. Labor is one of the vital ones. And this is one of the more sensitive ones, especially when we're talking to more union contractors is, hey, I don't want to be tracking my people. I don't want this to be Big Brother. But you know what? That's really not the intent of this. The intent is keeping people safe and keeping people secure and letting them be more productive, which is what any laborer is going to want to do in the first place. But it's being able to, like Paige said, have sensors on people so that you can keep them safe. And it's not just in the COVID-19 world where we're trying to be socially distanced, although that is a piece of it today. It's more that it's if you really get in the connected job site up and running and you take this in wholeheartedly and start executing some of these IoT devices that are out there, it's that mesh network. It's getting this data and aggregating it to keep everyone safe. So if you have monitoring devices, which we'll get to in a second out there communicating, they'll now tell you, hey, we see a potential safety issue over here on this side of the building. These are the people that are closest to it. You can now be proactive in how you manage your workforce and that safety issue. But then other things that just make us more efficient, more productive within our workflows and execution of tasks is progress reporting and geolocation and tracking for people that can give you automated time capture. That as soon as someone walks into this job site, a beacon picks them up, their time clock is starting. If you've done your planning correctly, you now have a system in place that already knows what work is being executed. You marry that time clock up, your time cards are now completely automated. You don't have a field foreman walking around trying to see what everyone's doing and manually writing down a time card that then has to be processed 2 or 3 times before it gets into job costing and payroll. Now let's talk about some of the site monitoring thing. And here's where some of the devices and the IoT gets a little cool. Drones is a big one. When we first saw drones out there on job sites, quite honestly, it was more of a marketing thing. It's saying like, hey, we now have drones that can take really cool videos and pictures of our job sites, and I can turn around and use that as sales collateral. And yes, that's still out there today, but these drones have gotten smarter. By marrying up the technology of the drones and the sensors and the cameras and the drones with the software in the back end, we're now getting real-time monitoring, providing visual materials that can do building inspections. They can monitor progress by starting to weave in the digital twin. Here's my model. Here's what the drone is seeing. I start to build upon that, and I can match that together with that digital twin model. And then there's security surveillance. What's going on the job site? From a security control, who's coming, who's entering, who's leaving, and then just simulation of things in real time. Another, just to kind of go on top of the drones is something a little more simpler, not as fun to operate, but job site cameras. I'll make a quick plug to Sincera because I've worked with them in the past, but they're coming out with these cameras that you can put anywhere on a job site. And they're sustainable because they're green. They actually use solar power to operate. Yet it's 24/7 monitoring of your job site for that real-time virtual access whenever you need it. So now you can enable security features on this like movement entry. So, Sincera can give you an alert at 3 a.m. if they sense movement within the job site. Why would someone be on the job site at 3 a.m.? Well, we can guess. The other thing that Sincera is doing, just like putting, a triac sensor on a person, is the social distancing. We've actually seen Sincera pilot, and I was on a job site a couple of weeks ago in Chicago and saw this in real time because I myself got a little too close to someone else. And it was able to send alert to the foreman that said, hey, here are the people, here's an image of them, a snapshot from the video camera that says people are working too closely together. And then we get onto the environmental side. Some really cool things are coming out just to keep us more safe on the job site. Some of these environmental beacons that you can teach the layout of a building, and then you can just put up throughout all phases of construction. Things like Pillar Technologies with their beacons that are mitigating and preventing losses. Well, a case study of theirs is working with a big GC on some of their devices. And it's the alert that you don't want to get, but in the middle of the night, the foreman got an alert that said the temperature dropped dramatically within the building. Down to a point, and this was last winter, to a point where the plumbing was already in and water was running. So there would have been an issue with pipes bursting, which would have cost the job site hundreds of thousands of dollars in rework. They got that alert right away and were able to go out and proactively fix the issue with the temperature of the building before that problem actually occurred. Everyone admitted this would have been a major problem on the job site. But they're also doing things like measuring dust contaminants, humidity within the building, any environmental factor this thing will pick up, including movement entry. So it's so precise that it actually knows when people are moving within an area of the building because of the environmental conditions that people actually put off. So quality control and operational insights are critical with some of these beacons for environmental factors that can be throughout every process of the building. And then lastly, let's talk about robotics. This is a fun one that I hope we see more and more out of, but Boston Dynamics came out with Spot, the robot dog. And we're starting to see Spot do a lot more on a job site. Problem with Spot is he's expensive, right? He's like 70 grand, to get him out on a job site. But what Spot can do is reality capture. Sometimes Spot can go into buildings where it's unsafe for people to go in and actually assess the situation, do some progress reporting, help with some precision and repeatability of certain tasks that need to be performed that maybe Spot can perform, but also workforce protection and safety. Instead of, we don't have, as contractors don't have armies of safety supervisors that are going to be on every job site all the time, but you could have an army of robotics that's constantly moving around the job site, checking for safety issues that could happen, and teaching, using machine learning, what these robotics need to be looking for. So as we get through some of the basics, some of the heavy hitters when we look at solutions that are out there and some of the benefits and insights that they can give us, the question we need to ask ourselves in the industry is your data working for you, or are you having to work for your data? And this is what Paige was talking about with IoT in construction and the emergence of that we don't have to be putting forth the manual effort to pull data off of the job site and determine now what do we need to do with that. We can actually use a connected job site to provide the data for us, to give us real-time alerts and monitoring so that we can be more proactive in how we manage our job sites than reactive. Gone are the days of going into my ERP system and pulling a report and looking at job costs and saying like, hey, we're in the red, what do we do now? Now we have real-time insights, so we're going to be alerted as soon as we start, that balance starts to go into the red, we can now act fast because we're automatically in getting this information. It's feeding us, the capabilities to make these real-time proactive decisions instead of being reactive. So Autodesk has a lot of these graphics that are cool, and Paige kind of walked us through this, but once you weave in all of the solutions that are out there today, there is just a ton of potential for the industry and how the built world starts to evolve over time as the connected job site evolves over time. This isn't something that's going to be in one and done. It's something that we need to dedicate ourselves towards aggressively adopting and finding the use cases for it. But this graphic doesn't just happen overnight. McKinsey kind of put a couple of years ago a diagram that talked about the construction technology ecosystem. And I can tell you right now that software players in the industry are doing a ton of the heavy lifting for you, for the construction companies that are out there, by being more open with their data. We see more and more open APIs. Talking from Milwaukee and on the OneKey perspective, it was such a great experience this past year integrating with a Procore and an Autodesk BIM 360, because our platforms are just so easy to work with, and us as companies make it easy to work with one another to help support the industry with a construction technology ecosystem. But we know that for each contractor, it's going to be different. And how you really execute this is you first have to determine, what's my data hub? Where do I need to streamline and send the data for these meaningful insights to actually make sense? And it really takes a process of understanding your processes, your workflows within your organization, and then do some value stream mapping. Find the waste, cut out the waste, create efficiencies by connecting solutions together in a way that's smart for your organization. Start to build your own construction technology ecosystem, while also knowing that your technology providers like Milwaukee and like Autodesk BIM 360, Procore, and many others are here to help you with that effort. We see data hubs being the project management platform. We see them being your ERP or your BIM model software. It just determines everyone's going to be a little bit different based on how they run their business and how they want to create their construction technology ecosystem. So finding the right partners is critical, but what's even more critical is understanding your processes and your workflows and getting some quick wins with the connected job site. What solutions can I plug in and get real quick benefit from and ROI by utilizing those? It shouldn't be hard to do. So on that note, I know we're at about time. So I know I speak on behalf of Paige. I want to thank everyone for their time. And it was great being here today.
Awesome, Paige, Andy, thank you guys so much for your time. If any of the panelists, or sorry, if any of the attendees have any questions, we do have a couple minutes here before we kick off our next panelist. And for all of the attendees out there, next panelist is definitely one you're going to want to see. And I think it backs in perfectly to what the Milwaukee team was just discussing. Maybe we can actually start to see some of that innovation in action through our next panelist as well. So if anybody has any questions, please drop it in the Q&A. And if you want to hold on to it, feel free to ask them over in the Slack channel as well.
I think, Brian, we saw one question come in. What are the big obstacles to move from paper to digital workflows? And it's really the systems that are in play. You have to look at the process itself. Why is paper still on the job site? And where is it coming from? What value does that piece of paper provide? A couple things that we see on here within paper is time cards. And that's an easy one. There's tons of digital solutions out there. You just need to ask for it. It's one thing like finding the source of truth. What a time card does is it goes in and it has to run payroll, but it also has to run job cost. So what systems are in play? What's my hub for that data for job costing and payroll? Typically, it's going to be your ERP system. So what digital solutions are out there that can replace that paper? Starting to build those requirements of, all right, this is the required, of replacing the paper. What systems that are out there that allow us to do it? But we also see documentation, daily logs, things like that. There's so many web-enabled solutions out there that can cover these things. It's first just understanding why you have paper still in your processes, and then what is the requirements of that, and finding the right solution.
Yeah, and I think one of the barriers that we kind of see there, just to add my 2 cents to it, is a lot of these technologies are features, and there is a little bit of app overload within our ecosystem right now, where general contractors or subcontractors are being approached from every angle with a point and niche solution. And so looking and finding those really comprehensive platforms that can solve a lot of those kind of core issues they're dealing with is still a little bit of a challenge, but I absolutely love that insight. So thank you for sharing that.